And we are live. Hey, Destiny.
Hey, what's your scene?
Cool, I'm cool. All right, so welcome to my second ever podcast.
I'm happy to be here.
Yes, so we have a lot to cover today. Firstly, of course, I just wanted people to get to know you a little bit. So how I met you was through Model United Nations, right? Really amazing experience.
Yes,
but tell me about that. What was your most memorable part of that experience?
I think the most memorable part of that experience was the people I met, because I was accustomed to the North and being in the North with North schools, and I met people from South schools I hadn't even heard of before.
Same.
You know, like Corial and stuff. I was like, who is these people? And then East schools that some of them I never even heard of before too. So it was a very enlightening experience. I would say they have a different culture in some parts. So it's like,
I agree, and it was kind of like, not only that, it was that I had the North people mentality that the North is the center of everything. You know. And then when these people came up here and they, you know, speaking very eloquently, they had, you know, they were
ready.
They were serious.
I just told myself if I put on a nice outfit, it could kind of deflect from the
it was really interesting. I'm still in contact with a few of them.
Me too.
And, you know, I just hope I keep that contact, keep the good vibe. So, tell the people a little bit, who's Destinee-Ann Robinson?
Well, interesting question. So, as you said, my name is Destinee-Ann Robinson. I am going into third year now, law student at the University of the West Indies, Caville campus. I am an up-and-coming fashion designer. I am an intersectional feminist, a playwright, a spoken word artist, an alpha female, most importantly. And what else can I really say about myself? I guess you have to see.
You have to see. All right, well, that's interesting, man. And I remember the first time, well, I used to sit down next to you and your friend from
St.
Francois.
No.
And we used to have lunch.
Yeah, it used to be cool.
Yeah, that was cool, man. And then what really struck me was on the day of the cultural exhibition or talent show, as they call it. You did that spoken word, little black girl.
Yeah, little black girl lost. Yeah.
Little black girl lost. Amazing.
And you played the guitar, and everybody was like, "What?"
I don't know if everybody's like what, because then some other guy went and took my guitar off and wanted to try and show off. But I have to say I was better.
Don't worry, he failed. He got nothing on you.
So let's jump into it.
Okay.
As I told you, I have a little rant. Now, there's a lot going on. And it was a lot on me, I would say, because, you know, all of these things started happening in the Belmont area, you know, and people on social media, you know, they riled up, and understandably so. But then they started throwing around terms like systemic oppression, and I asked myself, look, do you really understand what's going on? Like, it's easy to say that what happened there was objectively evil, but what led up to that? You know, what was the historical context for all of this that's happening? And I could not tell you, you know. You know, if somebody was to ask, actually somebody did ask me that, because how this conversation I was having, the guy was he sent me a video of the America and talking about their systemic oppression, and I knew most of the things in that video, and then he asked the question, what is the parallel context for Trinidad? I
like you're completely
had
lost.
No clue. I was lost. So I was asking myself, when did it come to this? When did it reach the point where I could tell you about Malcolm X, I could tell you about you know, Martin Luther King, I could tell you about redlining in the US, but I couldn't tell you any names of the people who were in the Black Power movement in Trinidad. I just didn't know, you know. And then so I went back in my mind and I realized in primary school when I was learning about history, and you would know.
Of course.
And even not just history, it's like the books we read, Boyo and Carla. They just look like us. That's all. They, you know, it wasn't much about our culture or whatever. I would learn the names of the presidents and the prime ministers. And
half of them I can't remember.
Exactly. Make sure I know my national motto. All that's fine, well and good. And I was like, maybe we just weren't of the age to learn about those things. But then my mother got a book that her grandfather printed for her about when he was in primary school. And this book was our full history. Of course, the children's edition. But it was like things I learned in Form 3. And not just that I learned in Form 3, they gave context behind it. So they spoke about a lot of different things that went on. And at the end of the book, they said something along the lines of, we need to understand, and it really ties into my last podcast, we really need to understand that we need to focus on ourselves a little more. We need to, first of all, make sure that we are secure in providing for ourselves. So they were, bigging up the agricultural industry, making sure that we focus on that a lot. And I was like, they learn that in primary school.
I actually learned about stuff like that when the new government came into power, and they started talking about not relying on the oil industry that much and trying to go into another sector, to focus on another sector, not more sectors, in order to provide that kind of funding for us. And I was like, yo, my whole life it's just been oil, and I just wasn't aware, wasn't taking on anything else,
But like, you're in a good spot, because we've all heard when you go to school, study sciences, because that's what the smart people do.
Yes.
And like, now I realize how ignorant I am, but people have always been telling me that I am intelligent, I know what I'm about, but I don't know, I hardly know about my history, I hardly know about my culture. So what made you realize that, because you really love history, you're into law, what made you realize that you were into that? Tell me about your experiences.
Okay, so I would say the main reason why I loved it this much, or love it so much, is because of my mother. She has been that influence. I remember growing up, and she would always bring up our history, our Trinidad and Tobago history, and she would talk about the Black Power movement, she would talk about the labor riots, she would talk about a whole plethora of things, and I would be just there taking it in. My brothers, they're not too into that, but I would take it in, I would listen to her, I would always want to know more, I would always ask questions, she would always lead me then to go and do research, and from that research, I started loving research, and I never stopped researching, I guess. So yeah, that's how it started.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish that somebody told me how important it was to know my history, because the school doesn't tell me that, From Forms 1 to 3, I learned about the Greeks, I learned about the Romans.
Well, you see, you learn about the Greeks and the Romans there. I learned about that when I was still in primary school. My grandmother had this book. I can't even remember the book, but it was small and brown, and it was like really old, because she had it back in her time, and it was like all this mythology and about the Romans and about what they did and all that, and I was reading that since I was,
But that's all well and good, but like, that's not only is it a long time in the past, but it was like a different place.
Exactly.
And I was learning about that before I learned about my own country, my own people.
Yeah.
And even when I did learn about it, it just never was put in context for me. So why was I learning about Christopher Columbus?
Exactly.
Because and we didn't have those kind of conversations, how their experiences impacted us today.
Exactly.
And our ignorance, well, my ignorance I definitely showing. And that's one of the reasons I brought you here today, to help enlighten me and hopefully some of the viewers into some of the experiences of the African community in Trinidad. So one of the main reasons I brought you on, not because you are a beautiful, strong alpha female, right? Not only because of that, but because you have some unique experiences, right? You grew up in an area which right now is all the rage in the news, all over social media. It's under siege right now. So can you tell the people about what was it like growing up in Laventille?
I have a love-hate relationship when it comes to this question, because usually when people ask me about what it was like growing up in Laventille, they expect me to be not the kind of person I am. They don't believe I'm from Laventille in the first place, because people hear me speak sometimes. And it's just because I'm very good at code switching, but they hear me speak sometimes, or they see the way I dress, and they're like, you could never be from Laventille. You are not from Laventille, you're lying. Until I start telling them about my experiences and telling them about how I grew up, then they kind of understand why. Well, first and foremost, yes, I did grow up in Upper Wharton Street, Success Village, Laventille, and my family on a whole, they placed education at the forefront. It's the most important thing, and it's the only thing that it could get us out of Laventille, and that is what I was taught, you know.
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, so I was taught that, and that is how we grew up. I remember sometimes, and I'm talking about in the last 5 years, where gang violence and police intervention was so rampant that you would hear the gunshots and we would be on the floor. It's so much of a reflex now that there was a day when I was with my cousin, we were in Barbados at school, and I heard a loud explosion. Well, we heard it. And I was like on the ground. And he was like, girl, what's going on with you, girl? What was he saying? I said, it's just like a reflex. As soon as you hear that, you're on the floor. It got to a point where hearing these loud explosions on the floor with my brothers, with my mother, sometimes we are in our rooms and we're crawling over like soldiers in ditches. I'm so serious. To check on. I'm so serious. I am so serious. And we going to check on my mom, and we said, "Mommy, okay. And she's like, yeah. I good. And she would then go by the window to try and peep to see what's going on. And usually it would be between police and whoever else in the area. So it was a very, I don't like to call it traumatizing because it made me who I am, you know? But it was something, in the moment, it was traumatizing. It got to a point where when certain guns were being used, I could tell you the different kind of guns.
Wow.
That's the level to which it got. There was some times where, this is where the police brutality part comes in, where young men would be on the block and whatnot, and the police would pull up on them, and the way how they would treat them, the way how they would handle them, and we're talking about people who have jobs, some of them have jobs, some of them don't, they just, their linemen and stuff. And they would be dragging them on the ground. And I just came from Port of Spain there, and we were crossing the promenade, me and my mom, and they arrested this young guy, and he was like, okay, you arrest me. They dropped him on the ground next, and they started dragging him to the vehicle. And I was like, I don't want to be, because I call them the all your two wicked ladies. I don't want to be one of the all your two wicked ladies, but I stood there and I started saying, why would you do something like that? And I know they were hearing me, but I was like, and other people were there too, and I was like, why would you do something like that? If he is not resisting arrest, if he is not doing anything like that, and even if he was, he does not deserve that treatment, Why would you have to drag him to the police vehicle like that? And I have seen it so many times. There have been times where I would be in the street with my brothers, and our family, we live in Laventille. So my aunt lives up the road, we live down the road, and we're just walking back and forth. And the police passing, and they're slowing down, and they're staring, and they're watching, and they're saying, nah, he's not the man, or whatever. It's just, that kind of experience can be very telling on an individual, It's more than just, the gang violence in the area. It's what the police and the national security have added to that. There have been times, and this was when I was around Standard 4, Standard 5, where my house was broken into twice within 6 months. The first time they broke into my house, they came for my stepfather's car. He was driving an Almira. Back then, Almira was real hot. Yeah. And they came into our house, and that was a gang from another area with high-powered rifles. And thank God we were asleep. And to this day, that's on my mind, because for months afterwards, almost a year, we couldn't sleep properly. We would hide everything in our own house. And it was hard. It was very, very difficult. 6 months after, they came into our house while we weren't home, and they cleared it out, like if we never even lived there. It was just clear. And I growing up, I remember in these things, it was like, if I didn't have the kind of mother I had, because she's very resourceful, very ambitious, very driven. She's that kind of woman who would do anything for her children, and who would go the extra mile and all that, just to make sure that we could get that education to get out of Laventille and live a better life. And I remember how hard that was on my very strong, independent mother. And she, to this day, I know it's stuff like that still bothers her, and the fact that we had to live through stuff like that still bothers her. But we have been working with it. It has gotten better for us. People think everybody in Laventille are criminals. A lot of people, because I saw it on Facebook recently, I saw it on Twitter, and I am seeing how people speak about my people, and I call them my people because they are my people. And I see the names they call us, and I see, because this is very heartbreaking, I see the sheer lack of understanding, and they would go on about saying these things, and I either get very sad or I get very angry, and I try not to. So I would come off of these things. But, you know, it's very difficult when you do not understand a situation, but you believe that, okay, my opinion is over your daily reality. Your opinion of where I live or who I am because of where I live, or my race in where I live, could never be more important than my day-to-day reality as a young black woman in Laventille, as a young black person in Laventille. And I would always say it was harder for my brothers than it was for me, because they had to deal with walking home from school and not being in any kind of gang-related activity, but having police treat them a certain way, or get home and all the buttons on the school shirt ripped off because the police just see you and grab you and they ain't even asking any questions. And it's just like, it has been hard for them.
So even though you were living in that reality, your house got broken into, right?
Yes, it did.
You see, at the same time that you experienced the bad parts of your neighborhood, but at the same time you believe that they deserve justice.
Yes.
And I think that that's something people miss, right?
People
even
miss that.
if these people are criminals or whatever, right? And a lot of times these people who are commenting, these people who are commenting have not gone through the experiences that you have, right? And yet they feel the urge to, you know, blanket the entire
neighborhood.
You know, and you living in there, you experience some of the bad parts, some of the good parts, and you still believe that these people deserve justice. Half of the people who comment in, their house wasn't broken into.
Exactly.
Right? But your house was broken into, and you still believe that even if the police came, the police should not, or at least try to attempt to treat these people as human beings.
Exactly.
You know? Okay, so hey guys, let's take a little break from the proceedings to talk about something. Last video I mentioned that I will be trying to monetize this in some form or fashion, and I just created a website. The link will be in the description below, lukegooding.card, CARRD.co. So you'll see the donate tab there. Please feel free to go ahead, because as I said, and I must reiterate, this really is just passion driven, and in no way, form or fashion do I expect to make money the goal of this. But of course, I don't want to jeopardize my future by dedicating a lot of time to something that may put that future at risk. So feel free, you can share that link with anyone. There's a lot of other things there on that website that you may or may not want to check out. So yeah, that's about it. And even if you don't like what I'm doing, even if you think that I'm a little ignorant guy trying to talk things that he doesn't know about, I think you should still donate, because why not let me, or why not encourage me to get that education? Because that's what the money is going to be used for. So yeah, guys, thanks a lot and enjoy the rest of it. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about a little bit is, what do you think, or do you think the relationship between the one shot, one kill sort of policy that came about and the recent killings, do you think they're directly correlated, or?
Yes and no. Let me start with the yes. Since the new commissioner of police had been appointed, Gary Griffith, everybody liked the approach he took, even I, at the beginning. And it was like, okay, we're getting society clear of the people or the persons who doing such criminal activity. And then upon consideration of what I was saying or what I thought and what other people were saying, and then again dealing with commentaries from people on Facebook who don't know anything about Laventille, who have never stepped foot in Laventille or any of these areas, and the way they spoke about, again, my people, it was heartbreaking to know. Because, and another thing people don't know is some of the time innocent people, and as we have seen from the past weekend, get caught in the fray. They get caught in the middle of all of that, and it's like people didn't know before, because the way they did it, they moved at night. So it was surprising to me that that happened in the daytime, you know. I remember there was some individuals in my area who they were into that kind of lifestyle, doing that kind of criminal activity. And it had been going on for a good period of time since the individuals, which I kind of grew up alongside in a way, because we all grew up together. We were around the same age, where at 13 years old, one of the individuals had murdered someone. Only 13. And it was like, that was the beginning, and then it escalated. And I guess the police couldn't pin them with anything because of lack of evidence and whatnot. So they would always get arrested, be back out. And on the night in which they were murdered, my mom, she was relating the story to me because I was in Barbados. She said she remembered hearing, because apparently they were liming at a spot, and probably someone tipped them off as to where they were and whatnot. And it was like a militarized kind of thing, because the police came from all directions. And at first you heard them shooting back at the police, and then it resulted in police coming from, like, I think it was 5 different areas, because it was like a spot and then the hills coming down to that spot. And there were 13 individuals there, and 5 of them were murdered. Some of those individuals were underage individuals who weren't in any kind of stuff like that, but because of association, they were also murdered. And I remember, of course, we had the All the Two Wicked Ladies again. But the mothers of 2 of the boys who weren't into that kind of thing, really, they were like, you know, you didn't have to kill my son like that. I remember one of them they were one of the individuals who was in the thing. His mother was saying the same thing. I know my son was in badness, but you didn't have to kill him like that. And that is something you hear a lot, because they would know, of course, what their children are doing. They would hear about it. They would know, and they would not try to sway them or anything like that. So we end up in a cycle where everything that is said on Facebook that breaks my heart when I hear it is perpetuated again. And we kind of proving the stigma, the stereotype, you know. And it's like these individuals, they would come in, as I said, they usually come in the night. The police will come in the night to do what they have to do. So now that it is out in the open and there is a video camera evidence that these men came out of a vehicle with their hands up, pleading, the one who was innocent, saying, boy, I live in right there, to then be taken from the earth like that without any proper judicial proceedings, any arrests or anything like that, is something that is, I don't believe is right. Now that I had thought about what I said before, like, yeah man, let Gary clean them up or whatever. Now that I think about what I was saying, it's like, regardless of you being guilty or innocent, you still deserve that respect.
Yeah. I think the one shot, one kill was reasonable at the surface. I mean, it was meant to protect the lives of the police officers. If you were to draw a weapon on him or point it in his direction, he had every right to shoot you. But I think that what we saw was the extreme of what that could mean. You know? Because they literally, if it wasn't on camera, they could have just claimed he pointed a gun at me. And that's what they did. They claimed a gun pointed at me.
Exactly. And the thing about it is, too, what made them even more guilty, I remember seeing police picking up shells on the ground. When they come and they do what they have to do in my area, police aren't picking up no shells on the ground. You know, that's not the police job. That's for somebody else who come in after to do. That's not their job. So that alone added to the thing. It was like, you know, okay, we know it was planned, obviously. We know it was something that they wanted to do because they lost one of their own. And that is usually the response to losing one of their own. Which, because I could tell you, I live in Laventille all my life. But the way it was handled, no questions were asked. We talking, the man stopped the car and he came out with his hands up, and you could see he is pleading with them. And then there's no kind of, they basically told them get back in the car before the whole thing happened. And for people who have to see that, it's just as traumatizing as seeing a police officer put his knee on a black man's neck for over almost 8 minutes while he is begging for his mother and screaming that he can't breathe. You know, it's traumatizing. It was traumatizing.
I'd say it's ironic. Maybe ironic is not the best word, but what happened across there just spiked in Trinidad, you know? And I really hope it opens people's eyes, and I hope that we can have a few more conversations like this. For people, because we have to realize everybody's human, and I really hope that I can take this forward going in the podcasts. I want to know what led up to this, because clearly our history is not the same as the US. So even though that happened, it's almost, well, it's not the exact mirror image, but something similar happened across here. I know that what happened there is completely different from what happened here historically.
Yes.
Right? So that's something I would really, really like to get to know. Because if I don't know the history behind it, and I do, like everybody on social media, call systemic racism without knowing exactly what they're saying, right? Then we won't be able to find the right solutions. So that's something I think I'm going to hopefully be able to do through the podcasts moving forward. But since we're on the topic of social media there, right? The social media outrage is something I've been very interested in for, I'll say, the past year, right? And two things I want to go through with you today, right? And tell me if you noticed it as well. When something disastrous like this happens, right? Instead of, because anybody watching that video could acknowledge, even if there's no evidence, it looked as though that was not right. Their hands were up.
Exactly.
It was unwarranted.
Exactly.
Then how in the world could we reach from acknowledging that I was objectively evil to so many people trying to, spin it in a different direction, trying to point fingers, and all of a sudden, the unity behind the act suddenly turns into a lot of enemies. You know, that's something that really amazes me, and I think that it has something to do with social media. So you've experienced that as well. That all of a sudden, everybody, you know,
just on this thing.
And
I like to call it what it is performative activism, because prior to this happening, people, when they hear people get killed in Laventille, they be, it good, he deserved that. And when the mother come and say, let me be real, in most cases there wasn't a good boy, but even if they come and say he was a good boy, he wasn't nothing, or they lie, he wasn't thing, you know, and you know, it go from that now to people feeling that feeling we feel as people in those areas when lives are taken without proper action behind it. And it's like, it's going from one extreme to the next. And this kind of performative activism, some people are genuine and others, it's just like they
because some people's eyes were open.
Some people just did not know what was going on in our areas. They would see people at unbeaten, and they would cry down the people unbeaten, and they would say, why these people always blocking the road and doing this, but they don't understand this is a cry for help. This has been a cry for help many, many, many times before, and it has been ignored. But now that we have on-camera evidence of an individual or individuals, whether they're guilty or not, being murdered like this without any kind of arrest or anything like that, it's like this going on in the country all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of shock.
You know, it has a lot behind it. We're talking Lavantil, Mova, Bitam, Silots. All of these are highly populated areas, highly populated by Afro-Trinidadian people. And these people have made these areas into electoral strongholds, I should say, for a specific party, which is the PNM. So no matter what's happening, we are still voting for the PNM.
And what are some of the effects of that sort of?
Okay, well, for my area, I can speak for my area. We have, and I don't want to call his name, but I have to. We have Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, and we have councillors as well. Mr. Fitzgerald Hines, and for want of a better way to describe him, my mom would always say he's a non-starter, because they know Lavantil is a PNM stronghold. No matter who they put there, we still went to vote PNM. They put a person there who is completely inactive, to the point where when he visited residents in Bitam, dealing with an ongoing issue, and again, that is how they go back on the highway, burning debris to try and get a message out, and they, again, were not listening. And we're talking Bitam is flat. So their homes are flooded, and they have to be throwing out buckets of water, and it's deplorable down there when it floods. And he promised the people to fix this problem for a very long time, to deal with this problem for a very long time. And then it was like he came into the area expecting everybody to just run and hug him up and, oh my God, Hines.
And he probably was like,
and they soaked him down with water. Do you remember that? Or you did not know?
Wow.
So they take the same buckets, and he was ranting and raving and saying, you will pay for this and whatnot, but pay for what? Pay for your inaction? You are paying for your inaction as the MP for our area.
I think he had any mentality, no matter what, they're going to vote me back.
And that is the mentality they have had about Lavantil, places like Lavantil, Mova, Bitam, Silots, for the longest while, because they know they are PNM strongholds, and no matter who you put there, we're still going to vote PNM. But what they don't realize is, we are a new generation. We are observant of such things, and the older heads, like my mom and grandparents, they're heading out. We coming in. So there would be a change, you know? So we have this going on in our area when we're asking for roads to be paved, drains to be fixed, opportunities to be provided, the community centers to be open or to be renovated, or just to get somebody to cut the field for these children to play, or to fix the basketball court. That is an issue that we have to we have to beg, you know, just to get certain things done in the area, just to get CPEP to come in the area, to clean up the roads and whatnot. It's like we have to beg for it. And it is very unfortunate, and it results in angry people bathing down the MP with buckets of water.
Yeah.
You know? So that's just the way it is.
Wow. And then we would watch this like
these people
it's a movie.
These people have no behavior.
Yeah.
Like, I remember somebody saying, again with the you can't be from Lavantil thing, you could never be from Lavantil. You don't behave like them people. I say, what do my people behave like? What do you mean by that? You know what I mean? No, I do not know what you mean. What do my people behave like? If you had a minute, just 1 minute in their lives, you would understand the frustration, and it's like a generational frustration with the whole situation that has been ongoing in these areas. And because you do not understand, you would judge them because of the way they speak and the way they would care about themselves or the way they would dress, which is all due to the lack of opportunity, the lack of education, the lack of resources. Sometimes the opportunity is there, but you lack resources to the point where you don't even have money to go to school.
And even the people who go to school, it's like, we can claim on one side, it's government school, you know, everybody has the opportunity, but I was speaking to my principal, Father Gregory, Fatima College, and he said, in his memory, he doesn't think any student from, I think is Piccadilly Street, is there a school on Piccadilly Street? And he used that as an example. No one ever passed for Fatima College. So, I mean, we could say on the surface that, I mean, everybody has equal chance. Once you do good in SCA, you can come. But I think it's not that simple.
No, it isn't.
Now, today, I don't think I am qualified enough to discuss solutions.
Yeah.
All right? Even if you have some ideas or whatever, I wouldn't be able to, you know, I guess, understand or relate. So I think that these conversations, I think I will have at a later date. Maybe I can have you back on when, you know, I just started on my journey of learning Trini culture, learning Trini history. So I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared to talk solutions right now. But all I know is that whatever solutions it is, it's going to be extremely complex.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons, because you said they need no opportunities. And then I could say they have schools.
Exactly.
But then it's not so simple.
No, it isn't.
You know? And so that's something else, another conversation for our next day. But I want to go back to this idea of social media. All right? We have so much evil things going around in the world today. And social media just exposes the worst.
Everything.
It exposes everything. And the reason why on social media I'd be a little more reserved than the average user is because I don't know how to react. It's so much going on. And then one of the worst things that will come out of it is that people always claim that their cause is superior.
Yes.
You know? And it's annoying, but I mean, like, I know this is a few times when we were talking about they had a global warming, I think a 2-month streak where social media was all over it.
Yes.
Right? And then on the tail end of it, people came out saying, you're complaining about this, but you should be complaining about this. And they're pointing out stuff like the situation in Yemen, or I can't remember the other country. So much craziness going on.
Yeah.
And then everybody wants to claim that their struggle is greater. But I'm going to say something a little, I guess, it's not really that crazy, but so much things out of our control, Destiny.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. And I mean, I encourage people for your own sanity, because even though we're seeing it, we don't understand.
No, we don't.
We could say the situation in Laventille is bad, but we don't understand.
Yeah.
I could say the situation in Yemen is bad, but I can't even relate to the African American community.
No.
You know? So it's kind of like, I want to encourage people, and this is going to be a trend throughout my podcasts, to take a little step back, address your problems, I guess, so to speak, because there's only so much we could do. Like, yes, I could sign a petition for Yemen, and I encourage everybody, or any situation in the US, I encourage people, go ahead and do those things. But you need to also accept that your power is so limited, you know? Bring awareness or whatever, but make sure and keep your sanity
in the process.
Yeah, for sure.
And as you say, power being limited, it is to a certain extent, but if you do it by yourself.
Right.
Because if we decide and make a concerted effort to come together as a nation, a community and whatnot, to try and fix, and I don't like to say fix, you can't really fix a system that wasn't designed for the people that are affected. So you have to rebuild. That's
something else, because when these people came out to the riots, right, and they were saying it's unjust, they were calling for the law to fix a situation, right? But at the same time, they're breaking the law so
to try
that
and fix.
Yes, try and fix the problem in the law, so that the law doesn't see their cause as just. I don't know if that makes kind of sense. So it's like you want the police officers to be held accountable.
Yes, but the only way to do so is to first break the law to be heard, to then try and fix the law.
So it's a kind of, evil cycle where I don't really see anything
it's
good
a
coming
double-edged
out
sword.
of it. It's really rough, because then the alternative is just to keep silent, and that's worse.
Exactly.
Right? But I think people, if you claim the system is fixed and then beg any system to fix itself, I don't know, maybe there is a way around it or whatever, but that's why I said, like, maybe take a step back, make sure that we were saying, unite the people closest to you, unite a community, try to unite maybe a nation, right? Because me trying to fix a situation in Yemen before trying to fix my family
makes absolutely no
it's going
sense.
to be
You have to deal with the domestic issues first before you go to international.
Difficult. And I'm not trying to say that their struggle isn't greater, but we have to be realistic. You know, we have to be realistic.
We do.
And I mean, where do you see your role in, let's say, Trinidad as an upcoming lawyer?
Of course, law is one of my career paths, and I hope to stick to it because, of course, it gets frustrating sometimes. But I see myself being the Chief Justice of this country. And we haven't had a female Chief Justice, so I'm hoping I will be the first female Chief Justice in this country. And it's like, it's kind of hard, because growing up in what is considered the ghetto is you're daily wrestling between dichotomy and duality, and it's like, what am I going to do when I get there? Because when you get there, there's a whole different ball game. It's like you sell out. It's like you're not for your people in a way. If you get there and you are part of the law, the legal process, you are part of that.
That's right.
And it's like you are part of the problem. So you are now
funny
you go from the little girl in Laventille who wants to be something, and everybody likes you when you want to be something, and you're working towards. But you see, when you have that something or you become that something, it's like you go from being an ally to a snitch or to the enemy, and it gets very difficult to advocate for that kind of change. And then people in those areas, and let's use Hines again as an example, they get very comfortable. They get comfortable in that privilege that they have no grasp onto, because he is also from Laventille, grew up the same way I grew up, and probably harder. And he knows his struggle, and he has been in his struggle, and he has gotten to where he has gotten because of the people, and got comfortable in a privilege, and refuses now to deal with the issues affecting the people. And that is I would like to say it's human nature, but you have to fight against that, you know.
And I really hope that, and I don't think you will go down the route he's going now.
No.
Right?
I pray.
Because I think that when you reach in that position and you have the power, you know,
it's like,
it's going to be rough.
It's going to be extremely hard.
But if anybody can handle it,
it's me.
It's you.
It's me.
Telling you. All right. Well, I think that's a great way to end off today's podcast. Destiny, you were amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Anytime.
Of course, I hope you can have a follow-up maybe in the next few months.
Of
and
course,
heading off to school or whatever.
Once I'm here, because you know.
Yeah. You have your studies.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks a lot again.
No problem.
Guys, I'm gonna put Destiny's Instagram down below, so please check her out. Full support our future Chief Justice.
I have like 3 pictures, but okay.
All right, that's it there.
Yeah, cool.